Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, a 16-year-old masseuse at Mar-a-Lago. This is all part of a web of lies that Donald Trump has created that he's not going to be able to untangle himself out of. And we're kind of going over all the different lies that are part of this and poking holes in it today. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck. This is Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. If you like this content, remember to hit that subscribe button so you keep up to date with us. Brian, what are we talking about today?
Lying lies and Donald Trump and why he tells lies.
Why doesn't he tell lies?
Yeah, lying lies are the liars that tell them. This is really sort of interesting. So as a couple of trial lawyers, and we put witnesses on the stand, I always say that there's reasons why people lie, unless you're a sociopath, which, in this case might apply. But people lie for reasons that, and of course, anyone who has a child or has to manage children know that sometimes when they get caught in lies, they dig themselves deeper. And I say the way out of a hole is not to dig deeper. But here, Trump seems to be just digging himself deeper and deeper and trying to explain away his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which is
totally
rather insane. So we're going to unpack that today, right, Sean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's start with just his relationship with Epstein. And we know that Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago. We know that they go way back, pre-2000. And what has Trump said about when the relationship with Epstein ended? Before we talk about the motivation for him ending the relationship with Epstein.
Well, his actual timeline as to when the relationship ended seems to be pretty accurate. He says like around 2004, 2005. And it's been all over the place. The White House staff has said it's because he cut off his relationship, because he's a creep. Trump himself has several times alluded to that it was recently particularly is that he doesn't come out and say it's because he found out the guy was a creep or anything like that. But he tries to say things like they wasn't that close, that, he didn't like the guy. There was something there because he's all trying to paint a picture that he found out that Epstein was a sexual molester of children and he took the high road and he got rid of him, which is completely untrue.
Right. In fact, in 2002, in a New York Magazine interview, Trump said something like, I know I've known Epstein for a long time. He's a terrific guy. He likes beautiful women, many of them on the younger side. He said that. And that apparently, according to Trump, his story, that is after Trump cut off ties with him. So there's something missing there, right?
Which isn't true. That isn't when he cut off ties. He's trying to say now he cut off ties earlier than that. And we also know from the Wall Street Journal story and other evidence that's come out since then is that he wrote that suggestive birthday card with his signature on it. He sues the Wall Street Journal because, of course, liars have to protect their lie, right?
Right. You tell more lies to protect your lie. And I mean, you do see this sometimes, and it's a kind of almost gratifying moment when you have a witness on the stand and you're cross-examining them, whether it's their side or it's the other side's expert witness or something, and they say something and then they go, well, that's not what I meant. And they tell another lie and it just gets deeper and deeper. And sometimes there's been moments, I think I've seen you do this, Brian, and you asked them at the end, you go, none of that was true, was it? And they just give them and they go, yeah, that's true.
So let's keep going with this. So
what do we have so far? We got his timeline for the cutting of the relationship with Epstein, which turns out to be a lie. We have, what else do we have? The birthday card lie, right?
Right. So I just want to focus on the timeline though of 2002, because 2002 seems to be like when his relationship with Epstein is in full swing, right? He gives that interview you just said. That's around the same time as the birthday card that's being put together. I think that's all, in the same time frame, and he's trying to back away from that. So now let's go back to the year 2000. And this is when this 16-year-old woman named Virginia Giuffre, I think is how you pronounce her last name.
Giuffre,
who is victim zero. Mm-hmm. She's the young woman who was molested by Epstein. She was, she's the woman who eventually came out and was, like I said, victim zero. She moves to Australia, and earlier this year, she commits suicide. And what we know happened is that in 2000, when she was 16, she worked in the spa at Mar-a-Lago. So let's just pause before we go down the Epstein road with her. Let's just talk about having a 16-year-old working in your spa.
Maybe let's not talk about that. That's just weird. That's just so weird to have a 16-year-old as like a, I don't know, not a masseuse, but like a spa attendant or working anywhere in something like that. That's just weird. And apparently, what many are saying is that Trump actually, the falling out stemmed from Epstein poaching employees away. But the only employee we know of that was poached away from Mar-a-Lago by Epstein was this woman, was this victim zero, Virginia Giuffre.
Right. And that's important to the story because Trump has pivoted to saying the reason he cut off his relationship with Epstein was because he was poaching his employees and he didn't like that. And that was offensive. And he kicked him out of the club because of that. And he didn't want to have anything to do with them. Total lie.
Yeah.
Because we know that the only person that there's any record of him poaching is this victim zero.
Victim zero.
And it happened in 2000. And in 2002, his relationship with Epstein seems to be going strong. Terrific guy, doing the birthday cards, all that kind of stuff after that happened. So that's a total lie, right?
Yeah, that's a total lie. I mean, look, if we were trying a case and these were the facts, I think, at the end of the case, you try to put on a theme and you come up with a list of, one thing I've done with you, Brian, in trying cases is put up a board of all the different lies they've told. These would be on there. And I think these would really resonate with the jury. It's kind of wild. All right. Well, let's talk about the real motivation behind their rift or their falling out or their breakup.
Right. The real motivation is exactly what you would expect the motivation to be with someone like Donald Trump. Money.
Moral? Is it morals?
Money.
Oh. Yeah.
So what we now know is that the real reason is that sometime around, I believe, 2004, right around that time frame, there was a mansion in Palm Beach. If you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about because they're all mansions of some kind in Palm Beach that was in foreclosure. And Epstein and Trump were both fighting to buy that mansion in foreclosure. And nothing is more disloyal to Donald Trump, not talking about his policies, not saying bad things about him. Nothing is more disloyal to Donald Trump than getting in between him and a deal he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the reason it broke up. That's the falling out. And this is why he cut off his relationship with Epstein and punished him by kicking him out of Mar-a-Lago is because he had the audacity to try to outbid Trump in this foreclosure deal. That's what it was.
It's not the hiring away. It's not the poaching of an employee. It's not the, the fact that he says, Epstein was a creep. It's not his objection to Epstein liking younger women or whatever Trump himself has said in an interview. It's just money. It's money. It's money over morals. It's not the other way around. And he's now trying to spin it as morals, but we know that that's not the case. It's just a deal gone bad. It's
right. And we know he did cut off his relationship, but it had nothing to do with Epstein being a creep, which shouldn't shock anyone because in the same time frame is when Trump made that infamous comment about molesting and assaulting women and that he believes he can grab them. That's around the same time frame. So no one can be surprised that it had nothing to do with Epstein being a creep because it takes one to know one, right, Shant?
Yep.
But lies don't end there because I want to keep going on with some of these lies. So Trump says something along the lines that he never had the privilege of being a guest on his Epstein's private Caribbean island, trying to imply that he never was that close to Epstein. But we do know that that's a lie. Now, it isn't a lie that he wasn't on the island. There's no evidence that he ever went to the island. There's no evidence whatsoever.
Sure, there's no evidence of that. But him trying to distance him that much that, I wasn't that close with him. Well, he was close enough to have like 7 private jet flights on Epstein's plane. And we don't know exactly who was on it around that time. We haven't seen the complete logs, but you don't fly 7 times on someone's private plane and say, well, I wasn't close enough to him to be invited to his island. That's just wild for me to hear.
I sometimes fly on your private plane, Sean. I like how it says Southwest on the side.
Yeah, well, if you're sitting next to someone on a Southwest plane, I mean, there's a pretty good chance you have a good relationship, at least a working relationship with them. This is on someone's private plane. He got flown around 7 times on Epstein's plane. There's reports of that. That's not in question. There are questions as to whether or not he went to the island. There's no evidence of that. But to say I wasn't close enough to him to go to his island, but then at the same time, during that same period of time, fly on 7 private flights with him. It's just a little
right. And we don't know if he ever flew on Trump's plane. We don't know if Trump had a plane during this time frame. We do know that the flights went from New York to Palm Beach, sometimes stopping, I think at least one stopping in Washington, D.C. And of course, we also know that a lot of these sexual assaults, these rapes took place in Palm Beach. I'm not drawing a connection there necessarily, but I'm just saying, at some point, circumstantial evidence is still evidence.
That's right. Yeah. I mean,
now I just want to finish. I want to finish with my final thoughts on this, which is this is still an unfolding story. I still believe there are many things in the world that are more important: wars, childhood hunger. But this story has become more and more fascinating. And it's not that Trump's lies don't end there. So I wanted to highlight 2 other kind of related lies. One is, and these are just sort of entertaining. One is Trump came out in 2019 and he said he didn't know Prince Andrew. He didn't know him. He didn't know who he was, other than from the news. Well, unfortunately, that's not true, because I'm reading, there are multiple photos showing Trump with Prince Andrew, including at Mar-a-Lago alongside Epstein and Maxwell, where they're all together. And that completely makes that a lie. And secondly, and that's not a lie. It wouldn't be like a lie to say I've never met, Joe Blow, some random person. This is Prince Andrew.
It's literally royalty. I mean, and also I was going to say it would be okay if he said something like, well, I don't recall when I met him, or I wasn't close with him, or I've only met him once. No, just to say unequivocally, nope, I've never met him. But there's photographs of you and the accused
multiple photographs. All right. And then the last one is the Trump's claim that he was never told that his name was in the Epstein file. And that's been completely debunked. That Bondi briefed Trump in May of 2025 and specifically said, your name is in the Epstein file. And that precedes Trump, where he says, when he talks about Epstein, he says, we're still talking about that guy. Why are you still talking? The guy's a creep. Why are you talking about him?
So again, if it wouldn't be that big of a deal if Trump said, yeah, maybe my name's in there, but no one's talking about the context in which it's in. It's not listed there as a client or something. It's just listed there.
Well, we don't know, Sean. We don't know right now. We don't know.
And his lie, I don't know. I think it hurts him. It comes back to bite him in the ass, because his lie makes it look like he has something to hide, as opposed to saying, I'm just mentioned, I was a business associate of.
My final thought on this is people lie for a reason. Like I said, unless they're a sociopath, which, okay, maybe. But people lie for a reason. And the lies here are to cover up the relationship, and they mean something. It means something. And when you start picking apart a story, which is what a good trial lawyer does, is you pick apart a story like this and you find holes in it. And then the holes continue to grow and grow and grow. And it's a mass of circumstantial, if not direct evidence. So as usual, Shant, you get the last word.
Yeah, there's something called, and you've referenced this before, Brian, there's something called Occam's razor. Sometimes the most obvious explanation is the right one. And this might be one of those. Why is he lying? To cover something up. And I don't know what that is, and I don't want to, without seeing objective proof of what he's done or his involvement, I don't want to sit there and speculate and say that. But there's clearly an effort to cover something up. I could say that confidently because of this whole web of lies we've talked about. It's lies to cover up other lies. And again, unless it's lying for the sake of lying, which is maybe, there's some motivation behind it. So I think this is important. I hope that his base that supported him, that gave him the ability to be in office right now, looks at this and goes, what the hell? Like, what is this? This is crazy. And I think that's happening. And ironically, you said this isn't the most important issue. There's plenty of real important issues that impact real Americans. But I think this piece of it is what ironically is resonating so much with his base, and it's coming back to bite him in the ass. So this is an interesting issue. It has a lot of implications. And we'll keep following it. I'm Shant Karnikian. It's Brian Kabateck. We're 2 lawyers at kabateckllp. If you have any feedback for us, leave us a comment, hit that subscribe button so you can keep following us. And this is Civil Action on the Legal AF Network. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next month.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.